Devs, we need to have a chat. You need to have a look at these troops. Because what you're doing right now is you're seeing a problem with them and you're just defaulting to reduce its health. That must be the reason why. That's going to fix it. No, you need to look at why it's overperforming and then how you can change that. Hello everyone, it's me, Lippy Roopy, that Australian dude who makes videos on Avatar. Apologies for the lack of videos. I'm still actually studying and I've decided to make time for this video because I felt that it was important that these things be talked about because they're big changes and I don't think all of them were executed that well. In this video you may see me change appearance slightly. My hair might change a little bit and then there might be some stuff different in the background, and that's because things were filmed on different days. So patch 0.6.0 came out just recently and it's quite controversial. This is the most controversial patch so far for this game. A lot of things changed, and change is okay as long as it's executed well. And I don't think a whole lot of it was executed. So a lot of this stuff that I have to go through, I'm going to be as to the point and as blunt as I possibly can. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff just because I don't want people's feelings to get hurt because they worked on this for a while. No, you need to hear these criticisms. And they're going to be criticisms. I'm not just going to hell abuse at you. It's going to be actual criticisms. And while we're on the topic of criticisms, I have some criticisms for the players. And it's this: stop acting like 2-year-old children every time an update comes out. I swear to God, I see all these people who message support and just start hurling abuse at them. You going to support and saying, fuck you, your game's trash, no one wants to play it, I'm quitting the game. It's not going to get you anywhere. Write it out in a way that is clear and concise and makes you sound like an adult and not a 6-year-old child having a temper tantrum. Okay? Send your thoughts off in a calm manner, written calmly and professionally, and then you're good to go. Don't have a tantrum just because an update dropped. Now, I get it. This update was pretty poorly executed. Trust me, I know. There's no reason to have a tantrum over it and start abusing the support team, who really, all they can do is take what you say and pass it on to the right people. So, patch 0.6.0, we're going to go through this stuff, and there will be points that will probably duplicate themselves into other sections of the notes as well. So if that happens, just allow it. It's a lot to condense into one and have it flowing smoothly without doubling up on things or skipping to other points and skipping back. So there's a lot to get through. I'm going to do it as to the point and as concisely as I possibly can. Let's get into it. So patch 0.6.0 aimed at doing two things. Mainly two things. Adding in the new Moara raids and incentivizing PvP on player bases. It added raids, it definitely did that. Failed to deliver on incentivized PvP battles at bases, and we'll get into why. We're going to skip the overview here and come down to the raids. We're going to talk about the raids. It's a little bit to talk about. I have some opinions on it, how they could be made better, and what I think works in them, really, and what doesn't work, in my opinion. So the Moara raids, I'm not going to get into details of what they are. If you're watching this, you're probably a player of the game already, or you are one of the development team. I actually like the raids. They're enjoyable. They give a bit of a challenge. There's a new challenge, something new to do, and it's nice to have a reliable way of getting talent kits. Although reliable, yes, it's a reliably low way of getting talent kits because the rewards are absolute garbage. So this quote here, you'll be able to earn more overall. I don't know who did the math to come up with that statement, but it is more than false. Most alliances won't be able to clear past level 3 or level 4. I mean, the top 2 alliances can clear level 4 pretty simply. I'm not sure how TFL goes with level 5. Hell's Gate, I believe if we pushed and strategized hard enough, we could maybe get 10 bosses. Maybe. But that's about it. So we're getting roughly, like 175 a day. If we were to do level 5s and clear tier 1 or tier 2 for rewards, 175 times 7, we're getting 1.2k per week. Other alliances will be getting more like 900. We'll be getting way less greens and way more whites. 9 to 1.2k, 900 to 1.2k is not even close to what players were able to get from simply just getting alliance credits and PvP tokens and then buying the kits in the store. It's not even close. While we're on this topic, alliance credits weren't moved from the social store. They're still there, but their price has been hugely inflated by up to 1300%. I'm going to assume this is a bug, and I'm really hoping it's a bug too, because if it's not a bug, this is an extremely shady move. This is a really egregious change, and what it's doing is it's just hurting your credibility as like the team behind the game to just inflate the prices to obscene levels. At this point, if this isn't a bug and the social store is working exactly the way you want it to, just remove the talent kits from the social store. Nobody's going to buy them. I can tell you now, 117-ish K for 300 green kits is ridiculously overpriced. No one's going to buy that. 50k PvP tokens. No one's going to buy that either. Now I should add in here now that a message was actually sent out to our inboxes today at this time of editing, going over that the talent kits being at such a ridiculously high cost for 300 greens and also the blues was a mistake and it should have been changed, and they've now been removed. That's nice and all, but here's the problem. The costs are still at a 1300% increase, which is just completely blown out of proportion. They shouldn't be 1300% increase. If you're going to increase the cost, do it by 500% maximum. It's just ridiculous. You are trying to justify an extremely egregious change, and I don't think any of us are really looking at this message and going, oh, that's okay, that means they've listened to us. No, you haven't listened to us. You've just tried to, put a band-aid on a massive wound. And to add to that, 10 greens is the maximum I've seen in the shop so far. Maybe it's 50, I don't know, but 10 is ridiculously low. Nobody's going to buy these. Just remove them from the social store completely. If you want an idea for what you can do with the talent kits, just keep watching a little bit later on. I can't remember when, but I have an idea for what you can do with the social kits instead of keeping them in the social store. The rewards from the Moara raids are absolute garbage. They really need to be reassessed and then improved. Another thing that is just mind-boggling as to why this was a feature. Why is anyone in your alliance able to start a raid? This is so random. If you look at other games with alliance wars and alliance raids, only the leader or any of the officers, I believe, can actually start those. You can't just have random members of your alliance start a raid or an alliance war. So please fix this issue. It allows people to come in and troll, or people to accidentally start a raid when they shouldn't. Just set it so that only officers or above can start a Moara raid. Please. It just needs to happen. As for the raids, like I said before, they are fun, they're engaging, they're enjoyable, they require strategy. I have a few nitpicks I would like to nitpick, because I feel like it could be refined and made better. From what I can tell about these raids, they seem to be procedural. And if you don't know what that means, for anyone watching, it just means randomly generated. Each time you go in there, the game will just go, just think a little bit and then just place down some bosses and then make some paths towards there. We found this out when teams 2 and 3 had different layouts to teams 1, 4 and 5. I don't know how random generated these layouts are, but the whole point of raids, from playing games like World of Warcraft, ESO, Star Wars The Old Republic, and even Marvel Strike Force and Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the raids are set things. You go in there, you learn the mechanics, you learn the best strategies to most efficiently take them on and clear them, and then you refine those strategies and get better and clear them faster over time. The whole thing of it being random kind of removes some of the strategy from the raids. Okay, so now that we've had some time to actually play through all the difficulties of the raid, it seems that levels 4 and below have some kind of randomness to them, at least as far as the paths go. However, for level 5 or difficulty 5, it seems that it is a static layout. So every teams will be the same every single time, which allows for planning. So this point about it being procedural is kind of moot now, but they're still beside the point. I don't really think that any level should have any degree of randomness to it. Now, I could be wrong in the sense that it has some kind of randomness to it. It's just that when we were working our way through difficulty 1, 2, 3, and 4, our teams 1 and 3 had a different layout, slightly different layout from teams 2, 4, and 5. So, yeah, it shouldn't really be procedural at all, in my opinion. Other thing is the way that energy is used in the game. Other thing I just want to nitpick is, like, I like the premise that you can jump anywhere in the place, and the fact that there's not set paths. That's all right. What I'm finding a little bit iffy is just how long the pathways are to the bosses. Some of them are just ridiculously long and don't need to be that long. I think it was a good 16 battles just to get to the boss. And it's good 10 battles just to get to the intersection that split off to 2 different bosses. Right? That's just a bit long. I'd like to see these pathways maybe shortened a bit, or instead of there being a patrol every node, there's going to be 2 patrols and then a gap, and another 2 patrols and then a gap. If you do that, then I reckon it would make it better, because you wouldn't have to expend ridiculous amounts of energy. It honestly just seems like you're trying to force players into spending as much avatar points as possible for energy refreshes. That's just what it seems like to me. And also the fact that, now I don't know if this is a thing to start off with, but this is an issue that arises. One person will start in a raid team, and they'll clear a bunch of nodes in a direction, and maybe someone else needs to go down that pathway as well. But they then suddenly have to spend 2 energy to catch up to the other person, instead of just spending 1 because they've gone straight out. To expand on this point a little bit more, at the moment I don't have a problem with spending the 250 AP purchases plus the 100 AP purchase to get 3 extra energy in total. However, what it seems like right now is that every single player in the raids are forced to spend more than the 200 AP total, just for the 3 and extra energy. Even if every single member in the team was able to clear nodes on the first go and not waste energy anywhere, they would still have to spend way more than that just to actually clear out all of the bosses. Especially in difficulty 5, it's become extremely clear that the paths to get to each boss are just exceptionally long for seemingly no reason. And I understand that D5 should be challenging, which it definitely is. However, due to the mechanic where if you jump too far it costs 2 energy, players will be forced to spend extra energy for simply just defeating a boss. And seeing as pathways to other bosses are extremely long, it's not really feasible for an entire team on difficulty 5 to even be able to reach the last 2 bosses without spending excessive amounts of AP. I mean, this could also be down to our power level not being up to scratch just yet for D5, but nonetheless, it's just a bit ridiculous. I don't know if this is a thing already, but because I haven't had to, but allowing players so that if they're on the starting position, it doesn't matter where they're going in the raid, it only costs 1 energy. I don't know if that's already a thing. It might be, for all I know. I've always been one of the first ones into the raid team, and then have cleared a few nodes, so I wouldn't know. But that could be a nice little addition. Now, the thing is with these raids is I like that there are multiple points of interest that will incentivize you to go off the main path towards the bosses to do. The problem is a lot of them are useless. Okay, my point here is just completely invalid. Don't even listen to what I'm saying. It's just completely wrong. Yeah, anyway. Fuel depots are so useless. You have to spend 3 energy just to clear it, and then you get an all troops bonus. Sick. Cool. And then you get a random troop chosen from the featured troops. Most of the times these troops are just complete trash and nobody will use it for that commander anyway. Plus there's 3 extra energy you have to spend just to do it. It's literally a thing now, at least for Hell's Gate. Avoid fuel depots. There's no reason to do them. Mountain Spires are great. They also act as a free travel point for other members of your alliance. They can travel to that mountain spire and claim it for free, and then their commander is then transported to that mountain spire and they can continue on from there. It acts as a handy little one-time transport thingy. If that's a bug, please don't change it. Like seriously, please don't change it. It's a great feature. Bosses! Wow, bosses are absolutely crazy. The rewards you get for clearing them alliance token wise are good. Talent kit wise, it's trash. I think the max I've seen you get is like 8 green talent kits. That is absolutely rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. They should be minimum 50 greens, at least for the ones where it's applicable for you to get green talent kits. Bosses are, yeah, they're challenging. Even ones that you have a higher power level on are still pretty insane. And I think it has something to do with the fact that they can cycle their deck so quickly. This is what happened to me, one of the bosses. It was, what did it do? That's right, it went puffball tree, and did a second puffball tree on the same lane. Then it put a horse down, then a Titanotheer, then it spawned in 3 Warbeast, like the boss mechanic one, little dudes, and then it spawned another Titanotheer down, all in the space of about 30 seconds. That's ridiculous. So, it's nice that they're challenging, but still, holy moly. These AI are just OP as. They can just spawn whatever they want, one after the other if they wish. Okay, this bug isn't specific to the raids, but right now, any troops that are spawned really close to the wall, the top edges there, it can actually just phase through the wall and float through it like that, as you can see with those sentinels. This is applicable to Viper Wolf dens, troop transports, and even just boss mechanics like that. Something that I kind of expected to come along with the raids was its own raid store. Most of the other mobile games I've played that have raids have a raid store. And you spend raid tokens, which you acquire from defeating nodes and bosses, and also then just clearing the raid. And inside those stores will be things like shards for characters or troops that you can't purchase anywhere else. Maybe you can get some special gear that you can't get anywhere else as easily. So what I'd like to see is a raid store added to the game, and inside this raid store you'll have some troops and commanders that you can purchase shards in maybe bundles of 5 for, that you can't purchase from any other store. The best thing that I could see is just take some of the commanders and troops from the Sacred Site stores and move them into the raid stores. Because right now there's a ton in there. There's an absolute ton of troops inside that Sacred Site store and commanders, and you could just either A, copy-paste some of them over, or B, just move some of them over. So pick maybe 2 troops from the Sacred Site store that are currently in there and move them over. What you could then also do is take the talent kits from the social store and move them into the raid store for a reasonable price. Don't have some ridiculously inflated price like they are now. Like I've already said, they're inflated by 1300% in the social store. It's absolutely crazy. Put them in there for a reasonable price, and then you can, and if you were to move them in there for a reasonable price, like say maybe let's say clearing level 3 netted you enough tokens for 150 green talent kits, and then maybe level 4 would net you enough for 300 green talent kits. And then the player could choose. They could go, okay, do I want to buy an extra 300 talent kits today, or do I want to buy 5 shards for this triple commander that I actually want to level up? I don't personally think that white and blue talent kits need to be in the raid store. You can get, I feel, plenty enough just from doing the raids in themselves. So it's mainly just green kits that I think should be in the raid store. So that's what you could do to make the raids more rewarding. And then the statement of you'll be able to earn more overall would be more or less correct. Players would be earning around about 300 to 400 a day, which I think is perfectly fine. And then they would also have the option, if they wished, to then purchase commander or troop shards instead of the kits. Maybe they don't need any that day. There's the options for you. I think a raid store would definitely work, and if it works exactly like I just said, I reckon it would. You wouldn't have to change the rewards for completing the raids at all, in my opinion. Next, we're moving on to the commander recovery system. This isn't... It's very different. First thing I want to say is that the time calculation needs to be refined. A Viper Wolf can hit your tower once, and then you'll have to heal the commander for 4 hours. I'm still not sure how I feel on this recovery system, because it's a contributing factor to why players aren't currently raiding bases right now. Because of the resources you have to expend to then heal them after the raid. The crafts increasing in cost, I find okay. And also the time it takes to make these healing crafts, I think is fine as well. The only one I have an issue with is the Hydra cell, or that last one in the fuel refinery that requires rares. I don't know what it's called for the Na'vi, I'm really sorry. It costs 12 rares to craft, which doesn't really make sense in my head for 8 hours. In my opinion, it should cost 8 rares for 8 hours, and considering every other craft that requires rares in the game costs 4 rares, and this one costs 12. This doesn't make sense. I understand that it has to cost more because we are just essentially crafting rushes, but 12 seems a bit excessive. Now, also because these crafts have gone up in cost, you're kind of screwing over the smaller players. Right now, this is how the servers are set out. There's going to be one alliance at the very top and everyone below them. And if you go anywhere close to level 5 resource nodes, you're dead. Because the top alliance will just kick you straight off. They're running out of resources for these heals because they're unable to farm them. I don't know how to fix this. This is the problem. There will always be a thing in place. This is for players and the devs too. Always be a thing. The weaker players will always be hammered hard by the top players. And it's difficult to stop this without just putting the 2 top alliances onto their own server, where they will slowly get bored of fighting each other over a course or over a period of time and then quit the game. It's difficult because I understand that it is tough for smaller players when crafts get cost increases and they can't actually make them anymore because now suddenly they can't harvest them due to bigger alliances policing the big nodes. At the same time, how do you fix it? I don't know, it's just a really strange change and I'm still getting used to it. Most people are annoyed they only have 2 slots now, but hey look, that's just the way it goes. Thank you, by the way, for giving us resources to level up the Healing Grove and Repair Base up to what we had the max that we possibly could. I appreciate that you thought about it. I personally didn't upgrade mine past level 12 because there's no point. I don't get the 3rd slot till 25, so there's no point in me upgrading that thing till I hit base level 25, which will be at least 3 years from now. This is an issue that I'm finding too, is that now harvesters can't heal in between battles, which means that attackers can just attack, they'll deal some damage and then you're stuck with that damage. They can go back and heal, then come straight back and deal some more damage. Theoretically, all they'd have to do is just keep returning until they missile strike, chip, or Ikran chip your towers down, and then just play full defense. So it's really swung the pendulum in terms of attackers, which what I could see as an interesting thing is that maybe you could make give a few commanders kind of like a medic ability, where if they're on a harvest rally, they will slowly heal the commanders over time. Could be an interesting thought I had. Thought I'd put it out there. I don't know. Overall, it's kind of I don't know how I feel about this change. Seasons, updates to seasons. Yippee-ki-yay, we actually have a use for season score. Huzzah! It's nice that we have these chests now that give us a little bit of extra stuff. Please, I just want to say now though, the season chests, don't buy them. They're essentially just epic chests, but for 400 more avatar points. So don't buy them. Just open the ones you've accumulated from the milestones. This is a good change. Executed well, good change. Good job. Now we get on to all the troops and the new troops and all the troop changes. So let's read through them. Elder Titan. This, I am calling it right now. This thing is going to be overpowered. I haven't played against it yet. I know one of my members, one of the members in my alliance has played against it in a raid. But just from reading its description and looking at its stats at level 1 and comparing it to the Titanothere, which it essentially is just another version of, it's a zombie Titanothere. It's essentially a Titanothere that costs 1 less energy with its own escort. So I don't know how frequently these troops spawn, because when I looked at its stats, it doesn't seem to have how frequently the troops actually spawn on it. But just from initial inspection, 7 energy is too low for a high health unit with its own complementary escort. Its stats are kind of random. I don't know what the hell spawn damage is supposed to mean. 8 times 30.25, what does that mean? Damage 8 times 126.5, like what does it mean? How does this work? We're yet to find out. But yeah, we'll see. It should cost at least minimum 8 or 9 in my opinion, but yeah. We'll see how it goes once it's unlocked and we have the opportunity to play against it. Banshee Roosts. Costs 10 energy and spawns banshees. It's also a new kind of building. It's a sky building, meaning that, or an air building, sorry, meaning that only troops that can target air units will be able to destroy this thing. So it's interesting. I like it. It seems kind of cool. 10 energy, which is, before people start complaining, 10 energy, it's more than fair for this troop, mainly considering that it is an uncommon building and it spawns banshees every 8 seconds. And banshees are insane. 10 energy and it spawns roughly 5 banshees over the course, over its lifetime. 5 to 6 banshees over its lifetime. I think 10 energy is more than fair, considering that banshees are absolutely ridiculously insane troops. Or at least they were. They seem more balanced now, but yeah, they're a bit strong. Nonetheless, Banshee Roost looks interesting. New RDA troops, Hexbots, look like they're going to be essentially the RDA version of the Blast Bulb. I don't know whether they can be targeted. They're labelled as a ground troop in game, so I don't know if they move or if they just sit in one spot. It looks like they might just... Oh no, they do. They have a speed is slow. So it looks like that these may be used in a similar fashion to the... what's it called again? The stupid plant that no one likes. The Blast Bulb. Might be used in a similar fashion to Blast Bulb. Slows the enemies, deals small damage, explodes when destroyed. 5 energy. It's just the Navi's Blast Bulb, essentially, in robot form. Could be interesting. Firefly. I was very skeptical of what this troop could do, especially considering it's a flamethrower troop, and the last flamethrower troop to be added was the Incinerator, and that is an absolutely garbage troop. It is so bad. It deserves its own video. But the Firefly looks interesting. It has a maximum range of 7 and a radius of 10, and put that in perspective, the Flame Boss's radius is 9, and its max range is 4. So it's going to be double, it's going to be a cone, essentially double the length of a Flame Boss, just on a helicopter instead. However, I don't believe this troop will be too overpowered. It has pretty low health. I think it's about the same health as maybe a Grenadier, if not a bit weaker, or maybe a little bit more health, I don't remember. Its damage is pretty low. Like its description says, it's mainly for swarms of aerial units. I just don't know how applicable this troop will be outside of decks that buff it, because yeah, we can just chop down some, I don't know, RPG infantry, and they can deal with stingbats pretty effectively. But we'll see how this operates. Navi Commanders, Sternby Safeguard. Its deck just has all the new troops in it, really. Elder Titan, Hellswarm, Banshee Roost, Dire Horse Sky Archer, and Viper Wolf Packat. Damn it! Damn it, every patch, it's always Pack-At. Oh my goodness. Looks like a pretty solid deck. I mean, what, 7? I think this is 7. 7, 7, 10, 5, 4, and then 8. So it's a fairly costly deck, but also a pretty heavily defensive deck that you can then push back with using the Elder Titan, which I still think is going to be broken. We'll see how many people invest into Atarn, because most people will just run Entok at Stern Beast because he is very strong. Very strong. Next up we have Takuk. He is the new rare defender for the Na'vi. He provides boosts. Elder Titan. Damn it, put a space bar! Elder Titan, Paradise Leader, oh boy. Forest Banshee, Toski Archer, the Sky Archer, Ikran, and Banshee Roost. This is an extremely defensive deck. I like the look of it. It looks like half offensive and then also very defensive at the same time. I'm liking it. I would personally play with Takuk over Swinara, just based on deck looks of the deck alone. But I wouldn't. I'll leave it to the Na'vi to decide whether they like Takuk or Swinara better. It's just like, the problem is, so many people have invested in Swinara or Sumong now that there's no incentive to invest in these new commanders, because we don't have enough resources to invest in all these new commanders all the time unless you're spending in excess of $15,000 a day on this game. I'm liking the look of this defender. He seems kind of cool, and I would use him if I played Na'vi. RDA, we're getting Madaki again, or Madakai again. He's our Dandy Tiger Safeguard. And my question is, why would we use him at a Dandy Tiger node when every single RDA player that I know has invested heavily into their Shen, because Shen is the queen of gatherers? I don't see him being used or invested in personally, because like I said, Shen is just so potent. All the green commanders are just very potent at the moment, mainly because we haven't hit end game yet. We haven't hit that ratio of suddenly the rares are better than the greens now. We'll see. He boosts Hornet Scout, Firefly, Grenadier, Helldozer, Hexbots, and Rifle Squadat. Yeah, decent deck. Doesn't jump out to me as being really good, in my opinion. Now we have the Rare Soldier, the Rare Defender for RDA, Onozuki, who looks freaking badass. Look at him. Oh boy, I might just unlock him purely for the fact that if you put sunglasses on this man, he would look like Dr. Disrespect. Please add sunglasses onto him and make him Dr. Disrespect. I'd love that. I would happily main him then. He provides boost to Bombing Run, Firefly, Gas Grenade, Hexbots, Scorpion Gunship, and Field Barracks. I don't recommend any RDA player. Actually, I don't even think any RDA player in their right minds would invest into Onozuki unless they just want stronger troops than Casey. So many people have invested heavily into Casey at this point. She is the queen of defenders as far as deck goes. Michaels doesn't come close to Casey's potency for defense, and I don't think Onozuki will either. I don't see many RDA players investing into Onozuki. Again, similar reason to why Takuk wouldn't be invested into, because we don't have the resources to do that. We can't. If we have the option to be able to just reset our commanders for a small fee of, maybe 1,000 avatar points, and then get all the resources which we have put into them up to that point refunded to us, that would be cool. Then yeah, people would invest into new commanders or try them out at the very least. But because we can't reset our commanders and we're just investing into the ones that we use, no one's going to really use the new ones, which is a real shame, because Takuk at the very least seems pretty cool. Oh, here we go. Enhancing base combat. I think this is the second or third time this is attempted to be done. The last time it attempted to be done, it didn't work at all because people were just shielding constantly. So they've attempted to remedy that with this new update, and whilst it has some good underlying concepts, the concepts there I agree with. The way it was executed and the extent of how far they went for these changes, it did the opposite of enhancing base combat. It just disincentivized it completely. So here's what was done right as far as things that would incentivize more raiding at bases and potentially more reinforcements. Lowering of the protected wood sprites and credits for the supply vault. I mean, yeah, it would just incentivize more raids because there's more resources open. The problem is, you've then counteracted that by lowering the loot skill to a maximum of 20k, down from 650k at max level. This has completely disincentivized people from raiding bases at all. There is a player who has had in excess of I think he has now 4.8 million credits stored. No defender. Anyone could just fly over and take it. The problem is, because the loot skill is so low... Hello? Hi. Sorry about that. Camera battery died mid-sentence. That's exciting, isn't it? There is currently someone sitting just happily with no defender, hasn't shielded for at all, really. He's sitting there with a good 4 million, or he was for a time, 4 million credits, and no one's attacking him at all. Because the loot, the rewards, like, you can barely loot more than 15k. And that's like with some of the highest level Wayne fleets at this current point in time. So what you've managed to do right now is you've successfully managed to disincentivize base raiding of any form. Nobody needs to reinforce anyone because, well, put simply, no one's raiding anyone. So we need to somehow incentivize base raiding again. How do we do that? Well, I think personally, the loot skill being as low as it is actually good, because what it's done is you're no longer able to farm an alternate account or your opposing faction account as easily as you were before. So that whole alt farming thing is kind of ruined now, which is good. So that's why I kind of want these loot skill changes to remain the same. What we need to do is, specifically, you stated you want to incentivize reinforcements and rallying of bases. So the best way that I feel for that to happen is to do the following. Keep the loot skill how it is for solo raiding. It could be increased to like a maximum of maybe 25 to 30k to give players a little more incentive to hit solos on the occasion. But the main changes that I think need to be put in place are for base rallies. So, here's my ideas, and it's all on notes, I'm not going to look at the camera for this. Successful base rallies no longer give out rewards based on individual commander loot skills. So right now, if you rally a base, a successful one will just dish out rewards based on your total commander loot skill. So if you have players who are, maybe 3 have 12.5k looting and someone else has 9k, they'll all get their individual loot skill in rewards. So what I think it should do instead is that the game will look at the total amount of resources that are lootable on a base and takes a percentage of those total available resources and puts it up for grabs for that attacking rally, up to a maximum of 50% of each resource. So for instance, if a base has 2 million credits available to loot in total, 2 million exposed credits, and 500,000 cement. What the game will do is it'll take a percentage of that, up to 50%, and give it out as rewards for a successful rally. So that would be 1 million credits and what did I say? 50, so 200, and then 250,000 cement, divided evenly amongst the attacking team. Now, I said up to a maximum of 50%, because what you'll need to do to get to 50% are use a full rally of 6 pillagers. Or raiders, what they used to be called. You can still use commanders like Quaritch or, maybe a Nemesis commander, but they won't give you as high of a percentage. Okay, so if we were going 6 pillagers, so 50% divided by 6. So each pillager will give roughly 8.33% looting of the total resource. So that'll incentivize players to use pillagers instead of a stalker or a nemesis commander, and it'll also incentivize raiding because you will get more resources from rallying with your alliance. In turn, because you are being rallied, this will then incentivize their allies to reinforce them, which will then mean that there will be more base PvP, which is what you wanted. And at the same time, it's doing all the other things you want too. It's incentivizing working together with your alliance to attack a base instead of just solo hitting it, and also reinforcing your allies. After the base has been hit, if all defenders on the base are defeated, if the defending commander for that base is killed, a 2-hour shield is automatically applied to that base as soon as the rally is over. This will then stop them from just returning again to clear it up. They'll then have to wait a period of time, and that'll then give the other player a couple hours to get back online and put their defender back on, and put a defender back on, maybe even just get another shield ready to go. This 2-hour shield is very similar to how Clash of Clans operates when you get raided. I don't remember how long the shield is when you get raided in Clash of Clans. I think it's based on how much damage your base took, but nonetheless, if we did this, I truly believe that base raiding would be incentivized once again, and incentivized in a way that you as the developers intended for it to be incentivized in the first place. Now, it also says here, 8-hour combat protections are supposed to appear more reliably in the item shop at a lower cost. That's just not working. They haven't appeared once in the item shop for anyone that I know. I think both the social store and the item shop need to be fixed because I don't think either of them are working. Progression, like I said before, it just makes no sense why it's like this. Progression speed for commander talents is tied directly to their levels, which is then tied directly to RNG, because to upgrade them, you have to hard push your base upgrades to get 1 level upgrade from it, or 2, you happen to get lucky with chest drops or sacred site store refreshes. That's it. So I don't see how people could be progressing too quickly. And this kind of brings me on to the point of progression in general. Right now, it seems that the progression curve is balanced around the biggest spenders in the game. At the moment, progression for a free-to-play player is just ridiculous. It's insane. At least at like mid-level, which is where a lot of us are right now. No one's at end game yet. There are a couple top, like kind of end tier, but not end game. Most people, at least in Hell's Gate and TFL, are in mid-tier, and the progression time for that is insane. It needs to be balanced. Progression needs to be balanced around free-to-play players, or kind of free-to-play players. Most players will spend some form of money on the game. And then, of course, if people wanted to spend extra money to buy more packs, then they would do that and they'd jettison ahead. And that's just how every mobile game is. It should be a fair progression curve for free-to-play and semi-free-to-play players. And then if you want to spend huge amounts of cash on the game, then you can, and you'll just jump ahead. Because at the moment it feels like it's almost forcing players to buy the Mighty Leaders pack just to have a fair progression, which is completely unreasonable. Players shouldn't be forced to buy those daily deals on a daily basis just to have a fair progression. So I think the progression curve needs to be reassessed, and personally I feel that part of the progression curve will that it will be helped slightly by the addition of the raid store in a similar way to what I have just stated. Right, now we move on to general updates. It's really good that we now have pretty much every troop available to us via free-to-play methods. Now in the Sacred Site stores we have Champion, Blastbolt, Banshee Flight, Warbeast, Averin, Sumong, and Aquay. That's really cool, especially for Averin and Freeman. RDA have the Helldozer, Lynx, Transport, Incinerator, and the Missile Battery. This is brilliant. Thank you for adding this. This is awesome. Commander health and status in Rally Overview, updating in real time. I don't think is working. I don't think this is working. Replays being sped up. Oh Oh my god, thank you so much. Thank you. I love it. Thank you. Great. This is the best change in the whole patch notes. Outposts now go up to level 80. That's cool and all. Nobody can do them yet, so that's nice. This one, which was glossed over, kind of just in there, and nobody realized was a thing until people started, until I read the patch notes and then notified half the fucking game. Is this: reset your faction progress in the settings menu under account. What is this? Well, it's exactly what it says. If you tap the reset button and then hit the confirm button, your faction account, not your whole account, just that faction, gets reset to the beginning. And you don't get anything for it. You don't get given the resources that you had spent to get to where you were before. No, you just reset to 0. And how do we know what this does? Well, because somebody who knows a member of one of the people in Hell's Gate happened to do it on accident. How do they manage to do it on accident? Well, because the reset button is directly underneath the switch factions button. Why is it in so close proximity to something that many players will use quite frequently? I don't personally use it too often because I really only play RDA and that's it. But still, it shouldn't be that close. It's just ridiculous. And also, who would use this? The only players who this would be useful for would be players who have spent 1 to 3 days playing the game and then have made a decision they've screwed it up somewhere and they want to reset and start over. This is not useful for anyone else at all, ever. Really? The button needs to be moved or made smaller. It doesn't need to be bigger than the... It's bigger! The button is bigger than the switch factions button. Make it smaller and put it out the way so you don't just go, oh! Whoops, there goes my account. The trials, visual updates are nice. The transition is cool. CJ, yeah, awesome. Although I wish he'd fucking stop talking to me every time I entered the trials to collect my daily tokens. It's like, I just want to collect my tokens! Shut up! Here we go, troops and combat. Encouraging fair combat so we get more rewards for fair battles now. Awesome. It doesn't excuse the egregious price inflation of talent kits in the store though. Please fix that. Another great change is that if you lose a trivial battle, you now get rewarded for it. And the rewards are actually pretty decent. I think they're pretty good. So that is a good change. Also, the incentivization of killing the commander to get the max rewards is great because it just means that I have a legitimate reason for killing off every commander that I come across. Now here's where we get onto the troop tweaks. And I need to ask this question straight up. What, Scopely, or whatever you're called now, what are your goals for each of these troops? Because it is so hard to determine what your goals are when they just keep being tweaked for seemingly no reason. Great example of this is the champion. At launch, this troop was overtuned, so I can understand why it would be nerfed, but it's still continuously gotten its stats decreased over, I think, about 4 patches now. Why? Why? I don't understand. Now, I could be wrong on that one. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the edit. But I don't see why it needs to be changed anymore. It's on par with the Flame Boss, which is where it needs to be. It doesn't need to be changed, in my opinion. Blast Bulb, sick. Banshee Flight, Banshees and Banshee Flight needed a small damage decrease, in my opinion, because for 3 energy, they're able to just obliterate things. And yeah, I feel like they needed a tad bit of a damage decrease, so that's alright. I'm not too up in arms about that, but Ikron, why is Ikron getting its damage decreased still? I don't understand. It's fine how it is. It leaves most equal level AMPs with about 75% of their health. Sorry, with about 25% of their health left. I think a little bit more like 30 to 40%. So I think it's fine. It doesn't need to be changed anymore. Now this is where I just blows my mind. Titanotheer, 3 patches now it's been buffed. Why? Why? Why is it being buffed? It is already a solid tank and deals pretty good damage on towers, especially if it gets its charge off. Just, why is it being buffed? It is a solid troop. Are you buffing it because players don't use it as frequently? Well, I can tell you why players don't use the Titanothere that frequently. It's because the commanders that most players will use don't have the Titanothere in their decks. So what's the point of using it? Now that Averin is a thing, that is a commander that many players will actually end up using, which means Titanothere will be used more often. Of course, you can make the argument, well, you can use Muratu on base offenses. Well, the problem is, most people invested into Sute because he was the epic commander. And Sute doesn't buff the Titanothere, and at least in my opinion, Sute has a better deck. And that kind of leads on perfectly to 2 crews. Who is complaining that 2 crews aren't strong enough? They are way more potent than a Ripper at this point. It's just ridiculous. Warbeast. It's these 2 troops here, Warbeast and Stingbat, which really tell me that you don't have any idea what you need to do to balance the troops in this game. Or you're just being ignorant. Warbeast, if you go back one patch, or maybe a patch before, you reduced both its health and damage, with the reason that it was able to clear through swarms of troops too easily. The Warbeast is not overperforming necessarily because it can clear through swarms or groups of enemies. It's because it is a tank that can hit like a truck. The Warbeast is the equivalent of if you were to go to World of Warcraft and join a raid team, you're ready to take on the boss, you had all your damage dealers ready, you had your healers, and the tank just walked up to the boss, hit it once, and then the boss loses 75% of his health just from being hit once by the tank. You wouldn't need damage dealers. This is the thing with the Warbeast. High health and ridiculously high damage. This Warbeast can take on any tank in the game and absolutely delete it from the game. Literally deletes it from the game. If it gets a charge off on a tank, it will just kill it in practically one hit, which is ridiculous. And even if it doesn't get a charge off, it will still go toe-to-toe with other tanks and kill them, and still have enough health left to go and hit a tower with a charge. The thing that needs to happen with the Warbeast is not just keep reducing both its health and damage until it suddenly isn't able to take on anything in the game at all. What needs to happen with the Warbeast is this. You need to decide if it's going to be a tank or if it's going to be a damage dealer. Personally, I think it should be a tank. It's a nice little premise. A tank that can charge to get ahead of all of the slower moving infantry in the lane. That's a cool premise. I like it. So if it was going to be a tank, just keep its health the way it is. Personally, it might need a slight buff to its health, maybe Link's transport levels of health, and then cut its damage in half, and then cut its charge damage multiplier in half as well. So separately from one another. This would then put its damage more on par with other tanks, and it would be a tank. However, if you want it to be a damage dealer, it needs to have its health cut in half. Maybe a bit less than half, but at least 40% minimum. And then its damage can be kept the way it is right now. This would then mean that it is a damage dealer. It can't take hits, but it can certainly dish them out. However, that would screw over Icani, because Icani relies on the Warbeast to be her tank. So that's why I think the Warbeast should be a tank. So like I said, just make it a tank or make it a damage dealer. Don't make it both. Okay? You don't make it both. Forest Banshee, it needed a bit of a damage decrease more than it needed a health decrease, but sure. Stingbat Swarm. This really confuses me, because this happened last patch too. Who the hell is complaining that Stingbats are too tanky? You may as well just make them have 1 health at this point. Because the Stingbats, what you've done over the 2 patches, is you've made a troop that could be one-shot by anything that could target it, and you've made it easier for it to be one-shot by anything that targets it. What is the point of it even having a health bar at this point? Fuck it, just give it, no health. Have it die upon entering the arena. Because that's what it practically does anyway at this point. So, why is this a change? This is so random. Sentinels, that's nice. I don't think they need to get any stronger than this, though. Again, I think you're balancing based on how many people are actually using the troop. The reason people aren't using Sentinels is because, 1, it was locked behind a paywall for ages, and 2, there wasn't a single commander that utilized them now. But now that we have Rallin buffs them, people will use them more, and Averin as well, people will use them more. Stop buffing just based on the fact that, people aren't using these troops. maybe make a commander that people will want to invest in that has these troops, or give sentinels to more commanders that people use. Paradise Needler, thank you. Finally. I mean, you read the first line, it's like by 35%, you're like, damn son, that's mental. But it makes sense because what they've done is they listened. And this proves, players, the devs do listen to us with our ideas, because I think 0.5.0 they increased its damage and lowered its health, and the reason behind it was because it was dealing with swarms of enemies too easily, so they reduced its health. Devs, we need to have a chat. You need to have a look at these troops, because what you're doing right now is you're seeing a problem with them and you're just defaulting to reduce its health. That must be the reason why. That's going to fix it. No, you need to look at why it's overperforming and then how you can change that without necessarily just doing a blanket health nerf. It's ridiculous. But good change for the Paradise Needler. I do have a gripe with it though. The boss mechanic ones, like the invincible ones in outposts and also raids, they're still firing at the same speed as the old ones. And they have that increased damage, and they absolutely demolish things. I think it put 2 of them down in front of my tower, and they literally deleted my tower in 2 seconds. So those need to be fixed for sure. Puffball tree. Whoa, look at that. It actually works. This is great. What it's done now is it means that no longer can you just put a puffball down right in front of the noses of a bunch of like a huge offensive push and have it delete everything in that lane. Now the puffball spores will have to move for 3 seconds before they will deal the same amount of damage that they were dealing prior to having their damage cut in half. Thank you. This was actually a change that I suggested, and it's brilliant. It now means that this is essentially their version of the missile battery. So this is a great change. You do not need to touch the puffballs ever again, or the Paradise Needler, apart from the boss mechanic one. Don't touch any of the plants ever again. They don't need to be changed. Please stop changing them from now on. Archers and Hunting Party. And Viper Wolves. Why were Archers and RPG Infantry and Viper Wolves and Troopers all buffed in this patch? They were operating fine. Why did they get buffed? It just makes no sense. Why did they get buffed? There was nothing wrong with them. Why did they get buffed? Now we get onto the RDA troops. Helldozer change. Great. Charges up. Movement speed over 5 seconds. From very slow to slow. Yeah, jokes aside, this is actually a good change. It now has a charge. Why am I holding this? It now has a charge attack, but instead of dealing increased damage, it will just hit straight away. No charge up time, it'll just ram it. This is great. It's given the Helldozer its own personality. I like it. And yeah, and I actually noticed that issue with the AoE not working. It's kind of random. Lynx Transport now pulls nearby infantry inside when deployed. Oh my god, the things you can do with this thing now is just crazy. You can have a full offensive infantry push down and then just dump a Lynx Transport on them and they'll all be sucked inside. The Incinerator. Please just delete this troop from the game. It is so trash. It is just absolutely, it's just an appalling troop in my opinion. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do at all. It's a nice thought, like a theoretical way of it being used, but it's not applicable in 99% of scenarios at all. In fact, it needs its own video. That's how bad it is. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about Incinerator, I'll talk about it in a separate video. Scorpion Gunship, it's a nice buff. Here's my issue with the gunship is, like it says here, yeah, it can be taken down really easily, and it still can be, by the way. It's very easily countered by lower health and slightly spread out air enemies, and I'll tell you why. Because it has like a splash damage on its rockets, and especially against Stingbats. Even just against Stingbats, the splash damage is so minimal. The maximum I've seen it take out is 3. Most of the time it takes out 2 of them. And the issue then is, it'll fire one missile volley off. The first missile will kill the Stingbat, and it will deal splash damage. Then the rest of the missiles will just evaporate, and they won't deal any splash damage, which is an inherent problem with RDA troops in general, in the sense that most of them fire in bursts, which is again it needs a whole separate video dedicated just talking about why the burst mechanics for RDA and for some of the gnarly troops need to be fixed and refined, because there's so much damage lost for anything that fires in hits of more than one at a time. Gas grenade, cool. It still doesn't kill anything. Nice. Grenadier, nice buff. Why though? Shredder, nice buff, but why? This is good because there were some outposts when I was using this during the Du Bois event, and the Shredder would turn 90 degrees to attack a tower, and it would just sit there not doing any damage, and I'm like, why? See, that was a thing. RPG station, this is cool. Bunker now operates in a similar way to the Lynx transport. Brilliant, brilliant. I love it. And fun little fact you can do with this, by the way, you can put down, let's say an RPG, some kind of troop spawner, like a field barracks or an RPG transport. And then if you put a bunker in front of it, the troops that jump out of the transport will get sucked into the bunker. It's actually kind of cool. And yeah, this falls into the same thing. Why are these getting buffed? Like, why? And concussion blast. I mean, I'll take the damage increases, but why? Why? I don't know. Look, overall, these troop changes really just feel like you're putting them in there. You're adjusting troops just to make your patch notes look bigger. That's what it feels like. I mean, it's hard to give feedback on what I think should be done with troops, or if they do or don't need them, because I don't know what your goals are for a lot of these. I know what the goals were for the Paradise Nether because you stated what it was. And inside the description, in the description for the puffball, it stated what the goal was for that troop, which is what I based the suggestion for the changes on. So, you know, if you need, like, I'm available. Feel free to get in contact with me if you want. And then, like, say, hey, here are the troops, here are our goals, what do you think we should do with these troops? And I will happily give you some feedback. Don't do some stupid frickin' survey thing that goes out to random members, because it's never gone out to the right people ever. Commanders. Talent kit requirements for leveling have increased, but the amount you can earn has also increased through Moara raids. Like I said previously, whoever did the math for this needs to go back to grade 3 and learn addition again, because this statement is completely false. Players are not earning more through the Moara raids than they were from simply just buying them through the social store, which means you've just extended progression times for no reason. And like I said as well, why you thought that they needed to be increased makes no sense in my head, because it's clear that you want us to use more than just one commander, but in doing this you're forcing us to still keep using and investing in like 1 or 2 commanders, because we don't have enough resources to invest in more than one. Talent level upgrades are linked to commander levels. You have to upgrade your commander's level to be able to upgrade your talents for that commander. Commander levels are then also tied to how good your RNG is in chests and also social store refreshes. Now, for rare commanders, it makes sense because you can just go into the Sacred Site store and you can buy 15 shards for like 20 to 30,000 unobtainium or honor. For epics, they barely even appear in the store. So why was this change put in place? I don't understand. I don't understand. It makes no sense. You're just increasing progression. You're just like steepening the progression curve for no reason at all. I mean, yeah, if we were earning more through Moara raids. No, actually that doesn't even make sense. If we were earning more kits through Moara raids, it still wouldn't make sense to upgrade the cost for talents, because like I said, they're linked to commander level, which is then linked to RNG. And then to upgrade those commander levels, you have to use credits or wood sprites. And it gets pretty costly, like the more you level it up. So, like, this change, I just reverse it. If you add in the raid store, like I described above and how it operates, then you can keep it the way it is. If you don't add in the raid store the way I described earlier and then it operates, you need to reverse these changes because it is just straight stupid. It just seems really shady, in my opinion. It seems really shady because you're forcing players to buy commander talent kit offers now just to progress at a reasonable pace. It's absolutely ridiculous. And like I said before, or maybe I did it, maybe I didn't, depends on how I edited this. Progression curve needs to be balanced to be fair and reasonable for free-to-play and semi-free-to-play players. It should not be based on who's progressing the fastest because they're spending copious amounts of money on the game. Okay, tower increase, who cares? Whatever. It's just, you've just reversed an update, that's fine, that's cool, whatever. This is what I think needs to be done. You need to get 3 players from each faction who've been playing the game for a while and understand a lot of things about the game. Get us in like a little team, faction representatives. Bring us into a call or like a little group chat and then present points to us. Present things that you are going to work on, ask us for feedback. We'll all sign NDAs. This worked for Elder Scrolls Online pretty reasonably with the class reps, but faction reps, small group of us, we all sign NDAs, and then you are able to discuss with us potential changes you might make, discuss with us how best to approach certain troops or how well certain troops and commanders are operating, gameplay mechanics, anything like that. I'm sure there are more than just myself who are happy to get involved in that one. I feel like the best way for you guys to go about this now is to sort out your gameplay mechanics and how you want them to operate first. Balance all of the current troops, and then once that has been done, start adding in more new troops and then new commanders. Because right now, people can't invest in new commanders unless they drop like 10k a day into the game. It's just, and that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's at this point I feel this game has become almost 100% pay to win because the progression has been neutered that much. Prior to this update, the progression was fine. The spenders were still jumping ahead of everyone else because they're spenders. What do you expect? The rest of the players like myself who really only buys the 2 extra commander slots every week, I felt that I was progressing at a more than appropriate rate. It is shady, in my opinion. So, that's my opinion. Economy and progression. We've noticed you have a large stockpiles of base collector resources. Tree oil, vines, plastic filament, and perma-alloy. Crafts now require more appropriate amounts of both of them. Now, I'm going to tell you why we have tons of these. Most of the top level players have stacks of these resources. Either A, buy a ton of packs per day and we'll get these resources with packs, or B, have been playing for a while and we're obtaining the crafted items that you need to use these resources to make from events. Since you took them out of events, we've had to make more crafts. I found that in one crafting event, I went through about 5k of all of that stuff and I have like 0 of it now. So yeah, it's affected me as a big player, but I still have a stockpile of the crafted items that I can use to upgrade buildings and the like with for at least a month or so, I'd say, if I was going to focus on building upgrades, which I'm not at the moment. This change has drastically hurt lower level players. It really has. I think it needs to be addressed. Okay? The lower base level you are, or like, I don't know how to do it, but lower level players shouldn't have to spend as much of that stuff as players who are at a higher level, like maybe base 20 and up. They shouldn't, base 20 and lower shouldn't have, maybe should spend the original on that, right? Maybe base level 17. Actually, base level 17 and lower should, spend half of the new amounts. And then as soon as you hit 18, you then have to spend a little bit more, and then you hit 20, and you have to spend what they are currently now with this change. So yeah, it's some of these changes are just really hurting newer players, and I don't know how well this game will go at launch because of how fucking weird the progression is. Especially considering that if they're put on servers with bigger alliances, they're not going to get trees. They're not going to be able to harvest rares at all because the top level alliances control all the level 5 nodes. They also control the trees too, at least on the smaller servers, which is why I believe small servers don't work that well. I think what we need is a mega server, not just like a big server with 13 trees. I'm talking like a good 36 trees kind of size, where the L5 node area is just as big as the small maps, like as big as like an entire small map. That's the entire area for level 5 nodes. This would then give more space, more areas for L5s, more alliances could harvest from it. They could sit on the fringes if they don't want to get necessarily targeted first. I just feel like a mega server would work to a degree. Building initial and upgrade costs have been shifted across types. So now what happens is your storage and defenses, which have been neutered down to pathetic. So pathetic that, like, what's the point of upgrading your storage at this point? Now have lower costs, and they upped the cost of collectors in commander buildings. Commander buildings, fair. I mean, it gives you an extra level on your commanders. That's fair. Collectors, fair. Again. But what I want to know is what the hell are trading posts? Like, what's a trading post? Is it supposed to be boats? Is that what the trading post is? Because... like, yeah, what is that? I have never seen a building called a trading post in the game yet. What I'd like to see, though, from collectors, cement collectors, I think, should stay where they are for pricing, because we already get a fair amount. I think, like, every couple hours I log in, I have about 1,000 cement, which is just completely nothing anyway, in comparison to what I have to spend just to upgrade a building. So don't fucking change cement collectors. They're fine. And plus, you can raid them from other people's bases as well now. Not that you can really loot a whole lot at the moment, but if that changes, it'd be good. I feel that every other collector, so that's, tree oil, vines, plastic filaments, and perma-alloy, all those other collectors, we don't have a secondary form of obtaining these resources in the world. We used to be able to get oil from outposts. We can't do that anymore. So personally, I feel that the cost to upgrade these collectors should be reduced. And also I feel that they should have their max collecting storage be upped slightly, because the collectors are the only means that we have to get these resources, and I feel that they should be reduced in cost because of that. Storage protection being lowered down to what it is now, it's just so random. It's just so weird. Just take it out of the game. Just have it protect nothing at this point, because it is barely 3% of what I'll need to upgrade some of the buildings for my level, which is base level 20. It's at 19 currently, and it's barely 3% of what I will need. It's ridiculous. Thank God for the solo harvest changes. People can't just dip out the second someone goes for them. They actually have to think about solo harvest, but at the same time, it just means that nobody is solo harvesting anymore. So just delete those nodes from the game, I guess. Outposts are such a meme. There is no... This is the patch that is disincentivized next to every single piece of content players were doing previously. It's disincentivized crafting outside of events. It's disincentivized outposts outside of events. It's disincentivized base raiding outside of practically everything. So, what the heck is going on with this? Outposts are such a meme. They are not rewarding at all. I get it. Why they were taking rewards out for individual battles, I don't understand. Yeah, cool. It'll be your primary source of commander marks. Sick as, boy. Awesome. You get like jack shit for doing them now, and there's no reason to do them outside of an event. Players used to do 3 a day, because you get something from it. It was minimal, but you'd get it. You'd get a bit of oil. You'd get a bit of credits. You'd get a bit of alliance tokens. Now, like, nobody does them unless there's an event. It's just like, what's the point? Because when you go there, your commander gets damaged. Your commander gets hit for, 100 damage. You have to heal them for a day. Well, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point. Like, there's just no reason to go there anymore. The pros do not outweigh the cons of participating in an outpost rally anymore. Here's how I think they could be changed, though, to better incentivize. What you could do, bring back individual battle rewards, but have them be like something minimal. So maybe you get 20 alliance tokens for any level outpost individual battle, and maybe 150 credits for any outpost individual battle victory. What you could then do is maybe then also put a small amount of one of the collector resources in there. So oil, plastic filament, perma-alloy, and whatever the Na'vi equivalents are. You could take them, put a small amount, like maybe 5 or 10, into each individual battle. And it'll be randomized. So you wouldn't just go, oh, every battle gives me oil, or every battle gives me plastic filament. It would just be, you do an outpost and you'll get oil for that battle. On the next one you might get perma-alloy. Just something. Some small incentive. Of course, players will then go and duo outposts and farm the hell out of it, because that's what you should be able to do. You should be able to grind in these games if you wish. And at the moment, there's no incentive to grind. It's just an incentive to spend money. And it's really sad to see, because I love this game. It's so much fun. When I first started playing it, I really enjoyed it. Even the times where RDA was stomping all over Na'vi because balancing was atrocious. I still enjoyed the game, and I was playing Na'vi at that point. Then the balancing patch came out and Na'vi could stand up to RDA. A lot of Na'vi still said they were too weak, and it's not that you were too weak, Na'vi, it's just that you couldn't play the goddamn game. But it's like now, it's just, I don't know. I still enjoy the battles and it's fun. The battles are fun. But what I'm not enjoying is how you're constantly stomping on progression, constantly forcing, in trying to change the way people are. It's like incentivizing people to spend money in the game. It's just, it makes me sad to see. I really hope that you listen to this video, you watch it through, you listen to everything, and you jot some notes down, and hopefully this is useful feedback. I know I've been kind of harsh, but like at the end of the day, I really enjoy playing this game. I wouldn't be making videos on it if I didn't enjoy making the game. I wouldn't be making videos on this game if I didn't enjoy making the game. Oh, what the f***? I wouldn't be making videos on this game if I didn't enjoy playing it. You have some great battles, some great tense moments, especially in sacred sites. Some great strategy in both sacred sites and the raids now. I'm gonna, like, when I edit this video, I'm gonna look back through and make sure I haven't skipped anything. If I've skipped anything, I've probably missed something to do with the raids, a suggestion. I'm gonna put it in the description of the video. And if you're a weaker player or a lower level player, because I'm in the top alliance right now, I'm in Hell's Gate. We're at the tippity top of the mountain. We're at the tippity top of the mountain and only halfway up, right? And that's the same with TFL. I can only give my opinions from what I'm seeing at my level. I'd love to hear what lower level players think is happening, what they think. So if you are a lower level player and you're watching this, drop your experiences in the comment section down below. Keep them constructive. And make sure they're not just abusing at the devs and saying, I'm gonna quit the game is trash, that kind of thing. Keep it constructive. List off some things you're unhappy with. List off some things that you are happy with. And hopefully the developers will be able to read those comments and get something from it. Or if you have any, I'm happy to answer any questions, by the way, Scopely, about any of the patch notes, any of the things, because I know that when I make these videos, I have my notes, but when I go back and edit them, I'll look at the edit and go like, oh my god, like just get to the point. So yeah, if you do have any questions, hit me up. You can find me on Discord. I'm sure there's a way of contacting me on YouTube. Feel free to get in contact with me and we can discuss things or set up some stuff. Like, I really want this game to do well. The Avatar universe is really cool. I like it. I loved the movie. And I love playing this game, and honestly, I want this game to do well. I want this game to do as well as Marvel Strike Force. And with some of these changes, I feel that it's kind of taking steps back in putting it to the kind of level that Marvel Strike Force is. Oh yeah, before I end, I want to go over some bugs. There are some current bugs we need to go over right now. Anyway, probably a much longer video than I intended it to be. But there were a lot of changes we had to go through and make sure we covered. If I miss anything, again, I'll put it down in the description below. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all watching the video. If you liked this, leave a thumbs up, hit that like button. If you want to see more Avatar content at an upload schedule that I don't even know, because uni takes a lot of time out of me, hit that subscribe button. If you have any thoughts on this patch, leave it down in the comments below. Make sure to keep it constructive. And yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next Avatar Pandora Rising video. Cheers.